Hello, I'm Bennett Campbell Ferguson.
I'm Mo Shaunette.
I'm Max Meyers.
And we are the staff of the Healthy Orange Movie Reviews. And today we are talking about The Hobbit, the Desolation of Smaug. So before we begin, I was wondering if we could all, in one word, sum up our feelings about the movie.
Uneven.
Excessive.
Complicated. Alright, so...
Great start.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's
Seeing this.
start with uneven.
I think I liked it as much as the first one, but the flaws were more apparent. But at the same time, like it hits higher highs, but it goes to lower lows for me.
I love that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say excessive. It just felt too much. I don't know. I like I said, it's one of the few books I've actually read multiple times. Well, twice, meaning that I will twice. I've seen it or
That
read
counts.
it twice. That counts as multiple. And it's been a while, and there were certain things I could pick out that weren't in the book, and others that were, and I get that, but I don't know. I was there for at Comic-Con when they first did The Hobbit, the big panel. He goes, "We're gonna do this as 2 movies," and I was like, "Hobbit, yeah, 2 movies. I can get behind that." And then he goes, "Psych, we're doing 3 movies." And I was like,
and they're all 3 hours long.
Well, and that's the thing, is the 3...
3 hours for 1/3 of a book.
Exactly. The book is so
appendices.
small as compared to 3 other books that he turned into 3 movies. I didn't see where it was, and I was like, okay, I trust Peter Jackson. He gave us the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'm pretty sure he knows what he's talking about. But I'll wait, and I've been waiting for that moment where I go, this is why it's in 3 parts. I'm so glad he did this. After last night, I'm still like, really? We couldn't have done this in 2 movies? It couldn't have cut out some of this. That's what I meant by excessive.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I feel like it's amazing how long the movie is. I mean, it's about 2 hours and 40 minutes. And within that time, very, very, very little actually happens. I mean, there's remarkably...
At least very little with the main characters.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you have sort of this this narrative, which is basically broken down into Bilbo and the dwarves. Like stopping at place to place and one place and another. Whether it's with the elves or with the lake town on their way to the mountain, and it's kind of this schematic thing. Like there's not any like real. There's not much like inner turmoil or conflict within that would allow you to kind of invest in this story. It's really a series of kind of almost like a weird travelogue. Really.
Yeah. I don't know. I was talking to someone and she was very upset. She goes, "The movie was good, but man, there was way too much Orlando Bloom." And I disagree for a reason you might not understand. I watched it and I was like, wow, here's Orlando Bloom and Toriel's character. We got Gandalf doing his own thing, and then we got the company of dwarves doing this. I really felt like it was weird. We had almost an even amount of time with each of these people. It didn't really feel like there was one real main storyline because it was so even.
Yeah.
Like in that sense, the amount of time I felt like I spent with Orlando Bloom doing his stuff, and the time I spent with the dwarves, I felt very even. Like I don't know.
Why was he in the movie?
I don't know. I know that Toriel
that's why he was in the movie. Why did they put him in the movie?
Well, obviously, because the girls think he's dreamy.
Well, he is. But
Yeah, I know. I was like, he can
but
rock that
besides
blonde.
that,
Well, I know that Toriel was written in because the screenwriter, she said, well, there was no female characters, and she wanted a female character. And
I get that. I can get behind.
But now, then I guess the only reason he's there is to enact with her.
So that there's 2 female characters?
No, just 2 girly-looking ones. but I mean, I don't know. I felt he could have done without him, but whatever.
I think the interesting thing is that I thought Orlando Bloom as Legolas was totally dispensable. I mean, he did very little of consequence besides stepping on some dwarves' heads,
I guess,
which admittedly was kind of cool.
I guess he does a contrast with Toriel as the one who doesn't hate all the outsiders.
Yes.
Right.
That could, the contrast between the two. Now that you mentioned that could be it.
There's something there. I don't know.
I think Peter Jackson said, I'm going to make The Hobbit, the movie before The Lord of the Rings. But what he really meant is, I'm going to make a true prequel to what I did a few years earlier. Because I'm finding, that whole thing with Gandalf, I remember in the book, Gandalf doesn't end up going to the Lonely Mountain with him. But you're like, where's Gandalf? Apparently you see where he's at and what he's doing, but it wasn't really necessary, I felt. I don't know. It really was happening. I guess in the other stories that could have been written down, that they don't really have the movie rights to entirely, but...
Well, the Gandalf part brings us to another interesting thing, because we leave off with him, not to spoil anything, but in a rather serious predicament. And I thought that was kind of a very odd spot to stop. One thing I thought about Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is, yes, it had a cliffhanger, but it kind of it also had a very complete arc, and it came to rest. And the Desolation of Smaug, it almost seems like they just snapped it off, and it was it didn't feel like there was a complete arc with any sort of concluding theme, or...
And that could have everything to do with the fact that he decided to do 3 movies right before he almost finished filming.
Right.
Where during the editing phase he was like, alright, this has to be 3 movies. That could have everything to do with that. He could have had a good clean arc in the middle when there was 2, but when you have 3...
But that's what Desolation of Smaug suffers from. It's the middle part of the story. It's
just like the 2 towers.
Yeah.
Oh god.
And just so much of it is set up for movie 3, there isn't really much of a character arc. The closest thing we get is Toriel and Keely.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Keely?
Yeah.
That was a part that I thought was I've already heard some people disagreeing with me about this, but I thought it was very successful. That, flirtation, attraction, there's something that I can relate to, more than a quest to destroy a dragon. It made this whole thing palpable, and it added this layer of emotion.
The emotion was there, but at the same time I had to kind of chuckle. I recently read an article, I think it was through crack.com, and it was 7 things that are wrong with the Middle Earth. And one of the points they brought up is that there's no inbreeding. Because we have to wait thousands of years before we get a king, and he has an elfin wife. Because what's up with that? It just seems weird that there's no crossbreeding here, and so...
That's an absolutely good
And I was like,
yeah.
I think they're messing with the formula.
How dare they?
The segregated world. How dare they touch it? But yeah, it was interesting, but at the same time, I think in the book, all the dwarves were there at the mountain. Does anyone else remember that?
I don't know.
I feel like no one got left behind. So it seems like they had to include this one character. We've had to add in Orlando Bloom. We've had to leave some dwarves behind. We've had to poison them all. There's also some orcs there too, which weren't even in the book at all, ever. So it seems like there's a lot of added stuff, which comes back to my whole point of, did we really need 3 movies when we could have had 2 movies, encompass 1 book, and do it all really, really well?